Australia's export of live sheep, mostly to the Middle East, is very lucrative. Last year it was worth $250 million. Now, obviously the very point of the business is that the sheep arrive at their destination alive. But transporting thousands of animals on long voyages across the sea is challenging. For years, exporters have assured the Australian public the safety and well-being of the sheep is their priority. And because they don't allow cameras on board the ships, we've had to accept what they say. Tonight, that stops. 60 Minutes has secret video recorded over multiple trips, which proves we've all been lied to. It shows disturbing animal cruelty and exposes a shameful industry. A giant livestock carrier heaves across the Indian Ocean with 63,000 passengers. On board the Awassi Express, it's standing room only. 3 weeks from Fremantle to the Middle East. Animals stacked 10 stories high, rolling with the swell. It's a severe shock after life in the paddock. Most Australians probably like the idea of our farmers making a decent living off the sheep's back, and we wouldn't presume to tell them how to run their farms. But once the sheep are trucked away from here, farmers don't get to see what happens on the long voyage to the Middle East, nor are they aware of how many of our animal cruelty laws are being broken on the high seas. Tonight, that all changes because of this man. Faisal Ullah is a 25-year-old graduate of Pakistan's Marine Academy. He was a trainee navigation officer on 5 sheep shipments from Australia last year. Why did you decide to blow the whistle on this industry?
Actually, Liam, what I saw on the ship, actually, once I was on board the ship, and when I saw the animals' condition on board, and it was just, terrible inside.
It was so terrible, Faisal broke the ship's rules and feared for his own life, making secret recordings on his phone. No one has captured scenes like this before. But you felt you had a personal obligation to do that?
Yeah, I did. Because of the suffering of animal, the severity of the suffering animals were going from, I could not, tolerate that. I was unable to keep it to myself only.
Over many years, reporting on mistreatment in the live export trade, 60 Minutes has asked exporters to take us on board an export voyage. The answer is always no. Faisal's video shows why.
I have seen a lot of little young lambs died, that they being crushed under the feet of other animals. It's so distressing.
Faisal records video diaries in his cabin. His first concern is for lambs born on board, which is not supposed to happen on these ships. The regulation states there are no pregnant sheep to be loaded.
Yeah, exactly. So crew cut the throat of lambs and they throw them overboard,
They just go over the side?
Yeah.
But it gets worse. After 3 weeks, the ship reaches the blast furnace conditions of summer in the Persian Gulf.
Temperatures have risen up to 36. Humidity at some places 93%. And sheep are suffering a lot. It's unimaginable.
On one voyage, more than 800 sheep drop dead in a day from heat stress. The ear tag on this animal shows it comes from a property near Narrogin, southeast of Perth. Now, it's shark food.
This is the first time in the trade's history that the average Australian, and even some of the decision makers, the regulators and politicians, will have their first look at what life is like on a live sheep vessel for the sheep themselves. That is how significant this is.
As the voyage goes on, and a vast slurry of dung engulfs the pens, Faisal makes a big decision: to share his videos. He contacts Animals Australia and their top investigator, former policewoman Lynn White. A joint investigation with 60 Minutes begins. The video confirms Lynn's worst fears.
I thought I was beyond being shocked, Liam, but this so deeply shocked and saddened and shamed me, because this is now happening under Australian regulations and under the control of Australian companies on these sheep ships.
On our watch.
On our watch.
We sought an independent opinion on the video from one of the world's leading animal welfare scientists.
It's pretty clear evidence that these animals are significantly stressed. Effectively, they're not given a lot more than the space they physically occupy.
Standing up.
Standing up, yes.
University of Queensland professor Clive Phillips had never seen anything quite like it. Many animals appear to just give up and die.
We saw animals plunging through, fighting to get through to the feed. It's a behaviour I'd read about. I'd never actually seen it.
In your opinion, is this deliberate cruelty?
It is deliberate cruelty because the exporters know what the animals may face during the voyage.
This cruel trade earns Australia about $250 million a year. And a lot of the profits go to this man, Graham Dawes. He's the boss of Perth-based Emmanuel Exports, who built the live export trade over more than 30 years. Those earnings allow him to enjoy his other pastime, breeding top racehorses. The live export industry inducted him into its Hall of Fame last year.
All I could do was shake my head. I think that all that shows us is the level of warped thinking in this industry, that someone that has had hundreds of thousands of animals perish during those journeys would receive the industry's highest honour and backslaps all around.
Mr. Dawes declined our request for an interview and referred us instead to the industry body. How long have you been CEO of the industry?
Around 2 years.
Is it worth it to be the public face of such cruelty?
Well, I've got a job to do. No, we're not. It's not about cruelty. We're not about that.
Some of those pictures, frankly, honestly, we're not going to be able to use to broadcast because they're just too confronting. Simon Westerway is the chief executive of the Australian Live Exporters Council.
You can see the heat stress there in some of these, or a number of these animals.
Your industry motto is no fear, no pain. But the evidence we've shown you today proves that's complete nonsense, isn't it?
Well, it was animals in pain. It's clearly, it's no walking away from this footage. I mean, there's clear breaches of standards there.
There's plenty of fear and lots of pain on 5 different voyages.
Oh, absolutely not walking away from that. I've fronted here to address these issues. Rallies Australia actually has the best standards in the world when it comes to livestock exports. The movement of livestock by transport, we have the best standards in the world. We set
the best standards in the world?
We do.
Which world? Third world?
No, first world.
On one trip last August, known as Voyage 25, Faisal's video captures the appalling result of a heat wave in the Persian Gulf that lasts 5 days. Ship records show that on the second day, 880 sheep die. On the third day, another 517 succumb, and it goes on. Export regulations state any sick or injured livestock be given immediate treatment and be killed humanely where euthanasia is necessary. The vet on board couldn't keep up. Not possible for the vet to euthanize 800 in one day.
Yeah, not possible. And they just died in front of us. I mean, they just one by one after other.
In that extreme heat, they almost would have been cooking, wouldn't they?
Exactly, yeah. It is as same as putting animals into the oven. I mean, you are just putting live animals into the oven.
When the ship comes into port, you lose those cooling breezes that you get out at sea. It could well be 40 degrees with virtually no breeze, no wind in the port.
That's not hard to predict in the Middle East, though.
No. I think that the real problem is that it's a risky business.
But why do it then?
Exactly.
And this is precisely the issue. Heat waves are inevitable. To lose 880 in a day means one sheep dies at least every 2 minutes. What are you doing about it? Because one sheep, less than every 2 minutes, and you have one vet on board. How can those animals possibly be euthanized humanely?
It's a tragic event, and absolutely, I'm not trying to put, words probably can't describe it effectively, so in a way saying less is probably better in respect to your response.
You are prepared to send them into a foreseeable heat wave. It's like an Australian farmer driving his flock into a bushfire. You'd do something about it, wouldn't you?
Of course you do.
You wouldn't just take them to the dock and then let thousands of them die and chuck them over the side like we can see in the video.
There's heat management plans and arrangements that have to be put in place in order to ensure that the trade can operate consistently around the clock.
These pictures show that those management plans don't work.
The management plans on the whole do work. Those pictures show that in those occasions they certainly did not.
Faisal, the live export industry has a motto.
Yeah,
And it says, no fear, no pain.
that's ridiculous actually, yeah.
Is that a lie?
That's big lie. You know, the condition on board, it was like a bomb blast. The conditions were so bad. Even crew fainted. A fellow crew fainted in the pen area because of too much heat, too much suffocation.
The crew were fainting?
Yeah, crew were fainted. And crew are allowed to go outside, animals are not.
On board, it's the vet's job to count the dead sheep and report that count back to the government. High numbers trigger an automatic investigation. The onboard vet on voyage 25, handpicked and paid by the exporters, was Dr. David Sharp. Documents seen by 60 Minutes show a blatant breach of regulations. He left the ship a day before unloading was complete and while sheep were still dying. How do you explain, according to the ship's log, why the vet on that horror voyage in August last year, voyage 25, took off early and went home?
Well, they can't be explained, but the regulator has had a look at this voyage in August last year.
Dr. David Sharp is his name. Now, 137 sheep, which of course should have been under his care, died. He wasn't there. He was on the plane back to his home in Melbourne. That's a blatant breach of the regulations, isn't it?
I'll have to take what you've shown me on board as the facts, and we'd have to look into that. If there's been breaches should be looked at.
Coming up, the ship of shame back in port.
We'll be loading more or less 60,000 sheep again.
And finally, a politician taking action.
If you do the wrong thing in this nation, no matter who you are, you should swing for it.
But is he up to the task? Just excuse me for shaking my head for a moment, because effectively you're giving the industry one more chance. That's next on 60 Minutes.